This episode is about going viral, moments that go viral during wedding planning. So, of course, when you are planning a wedding, you have all the right intentions in place for everything that's super important for your wedding. And cherry on top is if some of these moments do go viral, they go really viral. Wedding World is like amazing. It catches on like super quickly. So we're going to talk through kind of what are the best steps to take to get viral moments going for your wedding. Okay, recording now. So welcome back to the aisle. This week's episode is talking all about viral moments and how to go viral on your wedding. So last week's episode, we talked about it's business. Like it's not just business. Don't take, you got to take things personal, or things are going to get taken personal as a business owner. And it was probably one of my most listened episodes. So I just wanted to start this off by saying thank you to everybody that tuned in. I did share a lot of very vulnerable moments on that episode, and I think that was relatable. I think there was a lot of relatable kind of moments from what people were telling me. So I'm excited that I found a topic that was relatable for people and something that could actually help people kind of get through things. So thank you so much for your support on that episode. This week's episode, we're going to get into it, but first we're going to go into a little bit of life updates and Wedding World updates. So for us, of course, I have a lot of kids. I've talked about this a lot. The school year is winding down. We're getting ready for summer, which I could not be more excited about. We have a little bit of break from our wedding schedule, which has been nice. I've been able to catch up on a lot of stuff, go through a lot of housekeeping, create a lot of different kind of things that I've been missing and wanting to get into. And it's been really nice. We start back up again in 2 weeks. We're in Northern California. The weekend after that, we are in Tennessee. And the weekend after that, we are in Cabo. So we're kind of like back to back to back. We have this little summer run that I'm super excited about. Our brides are all absolutely incredible. Their weddings are gorgeous. Their venues are stunning. Their vendor lineups are amazing. So stay tuned for that. You guys are going to see a lot of great things coming through with the next few weddings that we have. Let's see, internally at BTS, I do have a past employee that is coming back on board with us, which I'm so excited about. She just has such positive energy. She's just like such a doer and like very, very great to kind of go through things with. So I'm very excited. And we needed another person, and she's not brand new. Like, she knows literally everything that we do. She knows everything at BTS. She probably knows a lot of the brides still. Maybe not. There's not really too much of an overlap, but it'll be great. So she starts back up this week, and I am so excited. So with all that being said, let's get into this week's topic, which is going viral. Viral weddings are engineered in a sense. They're not just accidental. I mean, there could be like a fluke one-off kind of moment that's like accidental, but for the most part, the biggest viral moments are things that have a lot of intention, maybe a lot of planning, a lot of rehearsal kind of going into them. And I'm not talking about like choreographed dances. Like, I'm talking about like actual key moments, like our couples actually rehearse. Like, you guys all see like at the end of ceremony when the bride and groom, like bride kind of twirls around, groom dips her, they do a kiss at the end of the aisle. Like, that doesn't just happen naturally. If you're not practicing that and going through those steps, it's not going to turn out the way that you want it to turn out. And so those are those kind of moments where people maybe are watching from afar and they're like, oh, it's so perfect. But like, really, it's not. There was like actual time and energy that was put into that. So when we go through these moments, I want to just really make sure that people are understanding that you don't get the perfect video without the best vendor lineup team. You don't get it without the scene being set just right. You don't get it without the most perfect attire and things that kind of stand out a little bit. You want things, to be curated kind of throughout. And then the cherry on top of this is that you do get those raw kind of emotions that come through. And that is really what completes it, because let's be real, we don't have like paid actors and actresses, you know, but there is, you know, a lot of prep and preparation that goes through this. So I just wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit on this and let people know that, you know, these things are not by accident. So if you're a bride who is looking for things to stand out, if you want things to feel different, if you want people to remember these moments, then you're gonna want to really be a little bit bold and a little daring and a little brave and allow these moments to be created. They're not going to happen by following like the typical wedding process. They're not going to happen by getting the same exact, you know, Galia Lahav gown that everybody has. Like, you got to kind of step out of the box a little bit for these. And throughout this episode, I'm going to dive into 3 very important topics or like categories that are going to allow for these viral moments. And I would love to actually have like somebody in here live to say like, what would you think the very first moment, or what do you think the very first category or topic is in these viral moments? Since obviously I don't have like the live feedback on here, I'm going to tell you it's bridal fashion. Like, without a doubt, hands down, bridal fashion. And this can be on the groom side, it could be on the bridesmaids, the groomsmen. The things that stand out are going to be something that's outside of the box. But like, here's the tricky part about this. You do not want to be too outlandish. Like, you don't want a green dress. Like, that's not going to get you that viral moment. And like, let me just be totally honest. Designers have been doing this for decades, where they're going to do like a pattern or a color or a black dress. And like, yeah, it's like a wow on the runway, but that's not really totally what makes this stand out. It's like the classic traditional wedding gown kind of feel, but it's a bold, edgy kind of statement that's tied into it. It's something that's setting the bar a little higher than just regular or normal. It's going to be a second or a third or even a fourth outfit change on the girl's side or the guy's side. It's going to be bridesmaids that have an outfit change, and that does not mean another ball gown. This just means another outfit, something that's comfy and cozy, or something that's just you. You have to tap into like, what are you known for? We had a bride one time do she had all of her bridesmaids change into velour sweat sets at the end of the night. And she always wore velour sweat sets. So it like made sense, and everybody ate it up because it was her. It made sense. It wasn't just a random kind of detail that went in. You're going to want the dramatic veils. Like, everybody knows Hailey Bieber's veil. She had the wording kind of etched into it. That was something that was so different and unique, and nobody had seen it at the time. So it's not that she went and got a veil that was just so outlandish. It was that she put her own customized detail into it. And that's what really kind of stands out. It's going to be your bridesmaids in like mix match, but like not mix match like everybody does. Like, maybe you have a stylist that really kind of like goes deep into how this is mix matched. Maybe you have a color that is so different and unique. Like, maybe your bridesmaids are in orange. You know, nobody does that. But like, whoa, a burnt orange would be absolutely stunning for the girls. It's going to be accessories, different things that really stand out and allow for these different moments to kind of take place. It's going to be the groom that has like the best pair of like designer shoes, or maybe he changes into something. He's going to have a detail on his jacket. Maybe it's like the dopest lapel pin or cufflinks that are so unique and different. And again, not gaudy, not too out of the box, but just something that people don't typically see, but it's you, you know, it's something that you've channeled and that you've brought in. So safe is never going to go viral. Doing something that everybody else has done. I remember when I first started talking about this, I said, you know, it's not the Galia Lahav dress that everybody has. I remember I had 2 years in a row where I had 6 brides in the same Galia Lahav dress. And like, don't get me wrong, this dress was stunning. Like, it was absolutely stunning, but like, nobody had a viral moment because that dress had been picked so many times. It was like the safest Galia Lahav dress that was created. And like, you can't have the viral moment with the safe dress. Beautiful? Yes. Timeless? Yes. Pretty? Yes. But you're not going to get like that actual viral kind of statement, because viral means that there's a risk that was taken. It's something that has never been seen before. It requires a lot of stepping outside of what everybody else does. And that's tricky because we all do what everybody else does because we know it's worked and that it stays, you remain safe. You know, there's not going to be any mess ups with it. So you have to really kind of walk into your bridal fashion and be like, I don't care if this is necessarily traditional, but it's me. And I think when that's the underlying statement, when it's not too like thirsty, like you're not trying too hard, but it really truly is you and who you are, that's what's going to hit, and that's what's going to feel authentic, and that's what's going to get those like, oh my gosh, like wow kind of moments for people that are watching. So besides bridal fashion, the next thing that's going to happen, that's going to make a wedding go viral, is standout moments. So these don't just happen. So we're going to talk about like the things that seem really spontaneous, but they're not. Like maybe it's a grand entrance, but like, guys, this can't be the same grand entrance that everybody's doing. It has to be different. And I don't know what those ideas are. I can't just rattle them off because they have to be specific to who you are as a couple. They have to be, it's the moment, like that dip I was talking about at the end of the aisle, like that dip and that kiss. It has to be like perfected, like it's like, you know, off of a Broadway stage. It has to be that one speech that has everybody like crying or laughing. And like, let me tell you, that's not easy to do because you have to really, really understand the art form of public speaking in order to move a crowd, because otherwise the speeches are tough, you know, they're really, really hard. So these are the things that are very heavily rehearsed, but they don't feel like they're heavily rehearsed. They're timed out perfectly, but they seem like they just naturally happen. They're super curated, but they seem like it just flowed so effortlessly. So those are like the key things behind the scenes that really go into things. Those are the things that make it seem like, wow, like those are the ones that are going to continuously kind of drum up a lot of exposure. You're going to want to practice your walk down the aisle a lot. You're going to want to practice how you're looking when you're standing in, you know, at the altar. You're going to want to practice your photos and your poses and your faces during, you know, photography. And these are even moments that aren't necessarily like stand out moments, but these are moments that have to be thought through, because let's be real, again, we're not paid actors and actresses. So it's not necessarily natural to sit in front of a camera for hours and hours and hours. It's something that you have to learn and kind of work at. So there's a lot of moments and a lot of prep and preparation that goes into wedding planning, aside from the actual wedding plans that I just have to bring to everybody's attention. So, again, circling around to trusting your vendors and having like a stellar vendor lineup team. Those are the things, like if you do have a great grand entrance, like what are the music cues? What are the lighting? What is that like? We have to make sure that nobody's in the way of what you're doing. And so those are the things that like really go into like trusted vendor teams. Let's see here. Couples that go viral on their moments are treating this like a performance, but like low key, you know, like you would never actually know that they're treating this like it's an actual performance. So I'm not saying that these moments are fake, because they're not at all, because they're, again, the icing on top, the sprinkles on the sundae, that's the actual real life emotion that's coming through. Those are the things that you're actually being triggered by and that you're feeling throughout. But they are practiced and rehearsed because it needs to feel natural when you're doing it, because otherwise it's stiff and it doesn't make sense and you're like, you're going to freeze up. It's not going to feel like super normal. So you have to be prepared in a really intentional way. Again, not making things fake or overly rehearsed. So usually people that are practicing and rehearsing these moments are doing so for weeks and weeks and weeks leading up to it. Like it's like the couple that takes like dance lessons for their first dance. That's a brilliant idea because it's a couple that's uncomfortable and doesn't really typically move that much around a dance floor with 150 sets of eyes on them, along with lighting and cameras and everything else. So just like somebody would naturally do that, you want to kind of practice and rehearse these other moments of your wedding day. Again, I can't stress this enough, not to feel fake or not to be fake or take away like the spontaneousness of this, but also just to make sure that you're coming across and things are really intentional kind of throughout. So there's one more area in planning that allows for very viral moments. So we've already talked about bridal fashion. We've talked about like these like standout kind of happenings that go through. And the last one is going to be the special touches. It's the little tiny details that go so far in your wedding planning. The good news about these is that these aren't things that you really have to like rehearse or practice. These are things that you're going to prepare and put a lot of time and thought into. So maybe it's like an embroidered napkin that has something neat on it. Maybe it's a little saying that's going to be on your cocktail napkins or your bar signage. Maybe it's a little decal on the floor with a saying that you guys are known for or like used to saying. It's really the things that are going to make your wedding super beautiful and so you and so unforgettable. It's the things that people are like, oh my God, did you see this? Oh my gosh, did you see that? There's this little note here, or there's this little detail. It's the things like you go to the bathroom and there's maybe like a little decal on the mirror, or it really shows that the couple has thought through every step of the way from the second the guest gets to the venue, arrives to the space, and then happens through the flow of the night. So those are things that could be, of course, a very custom kind of like seating chart. It could be something where maybe your name or your photo is somewhere. It could be like certain mentions in a program. It could be shots during the ceremony. It could be, I mean, it's like absolutely endless the things that can happen. They're going to be interactive moments. There's going to be design details that feel just like the couple, not like something you've already seen on Pinterest or on Instagram. So it's not about doing more or making things bigger or grander in this area. It's about little small touches and doing it authentically and in the right places and making sure that these things resonate with who you are as a couple, not just doing them just to do them. These are the moments that take a lot of time and planning leading up to. So again, this isn't something that's like rehearsed or putting a lot of like your physical energy into it. It's a lot of the mental prep and planning. And again, making sure that every step of the way throughout the wedding has some kind of neat special touch throughout it. There are things that are going to take a little bit of courage to do because there again, maybe you have these special details that are really personal to you and your fiance, and maybe it's like a little risky to share them, or maybe it's like, oh my gosh, are guests going to get this? Are they going to understand? Is this going to be well received? Is this a waste? You know, those are the things that you're always going to battle in your head, and you want to kind of ignore those because as soon as you land on ideas that are fitting to you and feel like they're part of who you guys are as a couple, you can't go wrong with those kind of details. So you want to make sure that you're not just following trends and going through things. You want to choose and to take a chance on some design kind of details, things that people have not seen before or thought of. And the reason that they haven't seen or thought of them is because they are actual extensions of you guys. I did have a couple one time. They had an all-white wedding. So many of our weddings are all white. And both of the bride and groom's mom's favorite color was purple. So this was an all-white wedding, but we put really, really subtle hints of lavender floral in throughout the flower arrangements. And they weren't the ones that kind of stuck out that you could see. They were really kind of subtly woven throughout all of the arrangements. And it was a huge symbolic kind of statement for their moms and how important their mothers were in both of their lives. And people noticed it, and a lot of people knew why they did it because they knew their family really well. And some people were just in awe because like, oh my gosh, I've never seen an all-white wedding with like a little lavender touch to it. You know, so it was like those kind of moments that it happened organically because it was truly a part of this couple's lives, and it became like this really neat kind of design detail that I'm sure really took off, and a lot of people did kind of do things similar to that. um Also, in these little moments, this also includes your bar and your menu. So it's not even just about like little printed items or details in design. What are you serving for food? Like everybody does steak and chicken. So how come you can't do like a gourmet burger and chicken sandwich? Like if that's kind of something that you like. Or why can't you do like really high end barbecue, like chicken or ribs? And this is just done so well. And then maybe you have signature sauces that your guests can dip into. Maybe you guys have created it. Maybe there's like little wet wipes that you're giving to guests that are branded with your names. Like different things that are so perfect that don't necessarily take away from the elegance of the wedding, but just do things in a different way. Because you can't tell me that every single couple that we have just loves a slab of baked chicken, like, or like that's not realistic. So like make it your own. I had one couple did paella for their entree, and it was so great because you still got to choose the protein that you wanted for the dish, but it was like served so beautifully and had like all the colors, and it had the veggies, then it still has the starch from the rice, and like it was one of the coolest details ever. It was served in like this really warm like skillet on there, and then we had like this detail, this little tag that was on there too, and it was just so unique to the couple. And like that's the stuff that people take away from. For so many years there's been like signature drinks where people are like, I don't know what my signature drink is, do you have a menu? And I'm like, if you're asking me for a menu, don't do the signature drink. If it has nothing to do with you, then why are you doing this? Because people aren't going to order it most of the time anyway, so why are we doing this? It has to be something like I love tequila on the rocks with like a fresh squeeze of lime juice. Like that's a signature drink. If somebody knows that I'm drinking, that's going to be something that I order. So it has to be something that makes sense in that kind of capacity. And if you don't have that thing, don't force it. Don't do it. Do something different. We recently had a welcome reception where we had the couple's engagement photos clothespinned on to the sides of the drink. It was the coolest thing ever, and people could actually take those with them as like a little memorabilia for this. And like it doesn't mean that you have to have a signature drink, but there is a way to present things that are perfect and that are perfect for you. So those are the kind of details that you want to really tap into and really kind of think about who you are as a couple and what makes the most sense. So we're just going to kind of recap some of this. The truth about going viral is that you can't force something to go viral. So I can give you all of these tips and you can follow them perfectly, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like this is going to happen. You're still maybe not going to be super influential in the wedding world, or maybe you are and you're going to take off in so many different ways. But it's not just about these moments or details. We have hundreds of amazing things that we do every single weekend with weddings, and a lot of them don't get a lot of reach and they don't, stand out, and that's okay too. Again, this episode is not for everybody. Not every single person is interested in, having wedding moments that really kind of take off. But if you are interested in it, then I really want to share some secrets that I have learned, some things that I've paid attention to for this, so that way it's a lot easier to kind of decode and to understand. There are other things that you have to take into consideration. It's not just these moments. Again, I've talked about having a stellar vendor lineup team. If your vendors are not experienced, chances are there's not going to be a lot of like that great timing and that like instinct of understanding and really knowing how things need to go. You need to make sure that things are happening at the right time, that there is some great exposure. Your vendor teams as well, having like larger followings on social media always helps. And then you just have to have a little bit of luck too, that people are just intrigued and they're like, holy cow, I want to see more of this. So if things don't necessarily go viral, you still want to make sure that you're touching on a lot of these points, because they are interesting and intriguing and super worthy of like sharing and being talked about throughout. Um, let's see here. Yeah, just going over just some of my closing notes to make sure that I have touched on all of the important details that I wanted to touch on as I was writing this out. Recapping, you want to be bold in your choices, but not too outlandish. So you still want things to be relatable. You don't want them to be gaudy or tacky or so off the wall, because then things get kind of cringy. You know, you still want people to be able to relate to you. You want to be intentional with everything that you're doing, but make sure you're not being rigid and too structured. So again, all of this is like walking this very, very fine line, like a little tightrope, to make sure that you are in a good kind of balance. And you want to make sure that you're being super trusting of your team to bring all of these things to life, because you have to be focused on the actual moments when you're going through the wedding, and your team and your supportive people in your family are the ones that are going to make sure that all of these great things do take place. So at the end of the day, don't chase the viral thought or moment for the sake of going viral. Allow it to happen by putting all of this intention into these moments. So plan for things that are going to set you apart and that are going to inspire others. You know, you want to inspire people to step outside of the box and to do things that feel normal and natural to themselves, not just things that are supposed to be happening. You want to chase the wedding that feels like you, in the most elevated sense of how this could all go. And I can honestly say that weddings that truly take off are the ones that feel very authentic. Again, we talked about making sure that these moments are still natural, but that there has been time and effort and thought and rehearsal into them. So it's, again, walking that fine line of making sure that you have curated this perfectly, but allowing it to happen even more perfectly on the wedding day. So that's pretty much all I've got for you guys for today. You want to make sure, again, that you are walking through your wedding planning journey and not copying other people's wedding planning journey. You know, allow this to be yours. You're going to get the most out of it, and you're going to love it the most if you are really sinking into who you are and discovering the things that you actually like. You never want to get into like this whole copy paste thing. I really quick have a little story. A vendor that I worked with on a lot of weddings, kind of back to back to back, had pulled me aside one time, and she was like, "Hey, I just want to compliment you." She's like, "I think you're the only person that can do 10 all white weddings in a row and none of them look anything like each other." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's like the best compliment ever, because this is what I strive for so much." So I always want to have these timeless classic weddings, but I do not want to do the same thing over and over and over. I want them to all have their own standout kind of moments, and I want them to all look unique. And when you're working with like one color, it's not the easiest thing to do, but it is possible. I promise it is super, super possible. So the goal, always make sure you're being elevated, do not duplicate, and make sure that, again, you're putting your own kind of special touch into things. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. So thank you so much for walking down the aisle with me, and allowing me to give you my expert opinion on this amazing wedding planning journey that you are taking part in. Be sure to join us every Tuesday as we talk about all things weddings. You can find us on Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts. Be sure when you are listening and when this goes off, if you could pretty please give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, as the more little hits that our episodes get, the more that it goes into circulation. And I would really appreciate that. So thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day.